Okay. Cool, cool. I gotta find the video. Hey, Emery, what's up? Oh, okay. Okay. Gotta move my Discord up. Gotta find this video where we're at, and then I'm good to go. Took longer than I expected because I got bucked by the grocery store. Damn, I watched some stuff in the last couple of days. I need some scrolling here. Yep. Here we are.
Believes and is fascist, he might be. He's not a Nazi. If we go by the definition of has some vague.
Okay. All my things. Cool. All right. Cough drop on a lot here. I got two different kinds of cough drops. One that has benzocaine in it to numb my throat so that I can still talk. Oh. And then another one that's just gonna keep soothing it. My voice is trashed. So just to recap, this is the third one. This is the one that has Dan in it. Dan's playing Hearthstone during it. I don't remember who the little cat icon is. Move my chat down. It's nice to see you, Emery. Yeah, the grocery store thing was really stupid. I was already like 4 blocks away before I could figure out that they charged me almost $90 too much. Very, very frustrating. But yeah, we're back at it. I'm gonna dive right in. I'm gonna rewind just back to the tiny little sliver here
and figure out whether or not he is or is not a Nazi. So, for instance, if we go by the definition of he was part of the National Socialist Party, he's not a Nazi. If we go by the definition of has some vague anti-Semitic beliefs and is fascist, he might be a Nazi or is a Nazi. If we go by this or that...
Do you think his anti-Semitic beliefs are vague?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because he doesn't currently advocate for genocide or ethno-states. He doesn't currently advocate for, well, it depends now on how we define anti-Semitic, I guess. Anti-Semitic in reference to Nazi, or anti-Semitic in terms of like just doesn't like Jewish people.
Whatever you meant when you used the word.
Well, if you don't know, hold on.
Definition.
If you don't know what I meant when I used the word, then for you to say, well, don't you think he is that, when you don't even know what I mean when I say that, I'm not saying disingenuous intention from your part, but you're asking me an empty question. You don't actually even know what I'm saying at that point.
One of us is being disingenuous when that exchange happens. I agree, and we both think it's the other.
I don't think we're both being disingenuous. I think that we both have in our mind an understanding of what anti-Semitic means. That's the whole point of this conversation.
I think you're being disingenuous when you say he has vague anti-Semitic beliefs.
Do you agree?
Sorry, I stuck on a dog toy.
I believe that you have a definition of anti-Semitic, and you have a definition of specific, and I believe that Fuentes's beliefs meet both of those criteria.
Okay. Do you believe that different opinions of what could be anti-Semitism exist?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then if that's the case, when I ask, or when you ask, is Nick Fuentze anti-Semitic, we have to define that. If I just say yes or no.
How do they charge you over 90? That's a very good question. So what it looked like is, so I went to a Kroger, and if you go to Kroger, you use a Kroger Plus card. So that was pretty helpful. It looked like the person before me's order got tagged onto my order, because you can see like their Kroger Plus card get registered on the receipt, and then a bunch of shit I didn't buy, and then mine at the bottom with like not that many things. I think we maybe got like 15 items, somewhere around there. There's like over 30 on this thing, and when she said $150, I was like, what? There was a bunch of people there and stuff, and like I had about what I thought I needed in groceries in the account I was gonna use. So I was like, oh fuck. So I had to stand there and be weird and just like move money, uh, and just like sort of hurry up. So I didn't really get a chance to look at the receipt. I was just like, fuck, our shit's too much. Um, and then once I stopped at the next store, took a look at it, I was like, this fucked. At least they were cool and they gave me cash instead of having to refund it to my card because it was such a high amount. They didn't want me to be like without like $90 for like the 5 days it would take to refund it.
Oh, we could be both talking about different things, right?
Which
We
is pretty
could,
cool.
but I trust you to have a pretty reasonable definition of anti-Semitic. I think,
No, not when we're literally debating the meanings of these words. These are the beetle in the
We're not.
boxes. Wait, like you don't know what anti-Semitic means when I say it.
Okay, I think that's an obfuscation to say that that's what we're doing.
Okay, here's a question: is somebody that makes an anti-Semitic joke an anti-Semite?
No.
Okay, is somebody that thinks that Jewish people have a disproportionate outlay of control of media or entertainment in the United States anti-Semitic?
It depends how much time they spend thinking about that. But if just thinking that, no.
Okay. Is somebody that believes that Israel has an unfair treatment of Palestinians anti-Semitic?
No.
Is somebody that is anti-Zionist, so they don't support like the nation of Israel, or they believe that Israelis engage in apartheid against Palestinians, are they anti-Semitic?
No.
Is somebody that wants to curb
Thank
the
you.
influence, the disproportionate influence that Jewish people have over media, are those people anti-Semitic?
Thank you.
Starting to get there, yeah.
Okay, starting to get there. So I think that the anti-Semitism that I've seen... one final question. Is somebody that makes anti-Semitic jokes an anti-Semite?
Sometimes.
I think it depends on the context or how
Sure.
often. At some point, if you keep making anti-Semitic jokes, at some point, I'm going to start thinking of you as hating Jews. Yeah.
Sure. So,
But I don't agree that this is the conversation. Like,
well,
I,
hold
I
on, no,
feel
no,
like
this
whole
isn't.
line-
This is the conversation. You don't want to have
I don't
it.
agree.
I know.
We
you're wrong,
disagree about
but
what
you're
the
wrong.
conversation is.
This is
Okay,
the conversation.
okay.
This
Okay, I
because
just
you're
need to-
saying
I
you're
just
asking
need to
me.
make this
is
clear that
somebody,
I don't-
That's
I
fine
don't
that you
think
think
what
that.
you're doing-
You're asking me is
Okay,
somebody
okay.
X, and I'm telling you.
I'm not sure at this point if this is I know it's not ultimately going to be productive, but I think it would have been better if Destiny just said what. Well, that's Miss Girl already laid out the things that Miss Girl says and does that are anti-Semitic. So I think it'd be better if he just tried to like figure out those lines. It kind of seems like that's what he's doing, but he's being more vague and broad with it than he needs to be.
We need to define X, and now we're walking through now, and
don't-
you can see how complicated it is to define X.
I don't agree.
Shit, is that really loud for you guys? I gotta turn it down a bit. It's really loud for
Yes,
me.
I
You're wrong though. This isn't a agree or disagree.
So it's up to you.
You're wrong.
It's up to you. It's up to you. I can either make my case for why I don't think this is the right conversation, why I think it's obfuscating to frame it this way, or we can stay in your frame and I'll continue down your line of questioning. I'm happy to go either way, but I do need
You're right. Destiny will not budge.
to interject and say that I don't think this is right.
I'm trying to point out to you the futility of the initial question, is he a Nazi? The first
I know.
qualifier we're getting to Nazi is anti-Semitism, and you've already admitted that who is considered anti-Semitic can be up for discussion. There's a broad range of what is considered anti-Semitic. If there's a broad range of what is
Absolutely.
anti-Semitic, there's probably a broad range of what is a Nazi. So asking the question, is he a Nazi, is definitionally an open-ended question. But when I point out
I don't
Being anti-Semitic is just part of being a Nazi.
agree with that.
it logically follows. It's deductively true.
I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with your premise, and I don't agree with your framing. But if you want to keep asking about anti-Semitism, I will answer your questions, and I will be patient, and I will not interrupt. But I do want to interject that I think you're obfuscating by even framing it this way.
Okay,
The thing that's tough is that what Mr. Grill's saying is pretty appropriate, but I think for most people, I think most people think that this is like a pretty good line of reasoning to go down, and I understand why. So I think out of all the parts, this might be the hardest for people to get on board with Mr. Grill with, but I understand what he's saying.
I think it's going to be impossible to move me off of this framing, but if you make a very compelling argument, I can be moved, so go for it.
When I talk about the definitions of these words, I'm talking about your definition. I'm
You
not
don't
trying
know
to
what my
challenge your-
definition is on any of these words.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely. I don't. But I know you decently well, and I trust you to formulate a definition of anti-Semitism that I would probably agree with, or that I think has utility. I also trust you to formulate a definition of Nazi, pedophile, murderer, rapist. All these words are words that you use a lot. You run into other people using them. And 99% of the time when I hear you argue about them, I agree with you. So even if it's not going to be my definition, I'm talking about your definition. So whatever your definition is, I'm fine with you using in this conversation. I don't even need to know what it is, and I'm not even going to ask you what it is.
Okay.
If I said if is Nick Fuentze a Nazi and you said no, that would mean a lot to me. I would probably ask you why you said that, but I wouldn't start picking apart your definition of Nazi. So the framing of again, we have an equal sign.
Yes.
We got anti-Semite on one side, and we got Nick Fuentze on the other. And the question is the equal sign deserved?
Yeah.
I'm saying you, in your heart.
This is what I've been, this is the heart of the whole, debate they've been having. And, I'm glad that we finally got to it. Mr. Gull can be pretty long-winded. Yeah, but in this case, it's kind of warranted because he's had to say the same thing like 20 different ways. So he's just trying to get an answer.
Do you think Nick Fuentze is a Nazi, however you define Nick Fuentze? However you define him being that? Is it his secret beliefs? Is it what he does? Is it what he says? Is it his effect on the world? Whatever. Is it his fan base? Whatever the fuck you want it to be, you can do whatever you want with it. And you can define Nazi however you want. But I think, so what I'm saying you have a moral imperative to do is not to agree with me that Nick Fuentze is a Nazi. It's to formulate an opinion of Nick Fuentze, formulate an opinion of Nazi, and then make a decision about how you're going to use these words, or if you're not going to use these words. What's concerning to me is that you're using the word Nazi in a serious way, in a playful way. You're saying he is a Nazi, and you're saying he isn't a Nazi. And my problem with this is I believe Nick Fuentze's game plan is to make it confusing whether he's a Nazi or not. And I believe that you are introducing the same confusion that unnecessarily
I understand.
by making it into a semantic argument.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything that you've laid out in this argument, I believe, proves my paradigm and how I view the language being used.
That's interesting.
But you are, in my opinion, misrepresenting, not intentionally, but I think you're misrepresenting the strength of the words that you're using. So you say, for instance, is somebody a Nazi? The way that you define this Nazi word, or pedophile, or murderer, or rapist, is done in a tribalistic manner. You're not appealing to an objective definition of Nazi. You're telling me, I trust you, I know you, I think that we'll agree on the definitions roughly for these words. That's the problem, is that when different tribes of people are connecting on the internet, they've tribalistically determined what the definitions of some of these broader words are. If I talk to a lot of people on the right, things like groomer and pedophile.
It's really weird that he'd say this because Mr. Crowley say, yeah, and I think we're of the same tribe. But maybe not when it comes to the word Nazi. So if you could fucking answer my question, that would go a long way to helping me understand this. Oops.
Are going to be broadly applied across the LGBT group because they also trust each other to have a tribalistic family way of defining these words. So when you ask me, I want you to formulate an opinion of Nick Fuentze, and I want you to formulate an opinion of all of these things to tell me like what you feel about these things. What I'm pushing back on is that that's fine, and if it's in a one-on-one conversation, maybe I'll say it. But in front of an audience,
this is a one-on-one.
There's all sorts of different tribes butting up against each other with different definitions that are all different. So when you ask me, is somebody a Nazi? You're referring to 27 different things.
So it's not tribalistic; it's a literal definition. So what Destiny's explaining right now is that I'm not just talking to you, I am talking to my audience, which I think is going to inherently make this conversation impossible. If he was just talking to Mr. Which maybe he should have just said to begin with, I can't talk about this in front of audiences. Instead of trying to say, this was a one-on-one conversation, then blah, 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 blah. He should just say, I can't talk to you about this in front of an audience. Because then I would have to, I'm not really sure what the implication here is. Because Like, what if like Destiny can just disagree with all those other people and agree with the people that agree with them? I don't understand why the audience being there would make a difference.
All at once. And I don't want to answer yes to that because I can't commit him to everybody's different definition of the word Nazi. We already had a conversation. We can't even agree on what anti-Semitism is. And you want me to agree on a definition of Nazi that I would hold somebody to publicly?
I don't want you to agree with other people. I want you to agree with yourself. Say your definition, and then that'll be it. And people will know what you meant when you said it. Just like you gave the definition of the word pedophile.
That's not true.
Pedophile. You used the word pedophile just now.
If I was to,
wait. Let me finish. Now who's interrupting who? You used the word pedophile just now, and you said, "Here's my definition of pedophile." Other people have different definitions of pedophile. This one is mine. And then you use the word. No ambiguity, no confusion. If there's 27 definitions, you just got rid of 26 of them. And then you're fine using the word. When it comes to the word Nazi and Nick Fuentze, you don't want to do that. And that's all I'm asking you to do, is have your definition, tell us what it is, and then use it.
That's it, right there. This is the part that I feel like counters every single person who says Mr. Girl just wanted Destiny called Nick Fuentze a Nazi. So like part of him wants him to, like he wishes that he would, because he wants him to agree with him, but saying just no, not at all. Mr. Girl could not have possibly been more clear here. That kind of want is like this is my preference. But what he needs in this conversation is what he just said. You define Nazi. Then tell me if you think Nick Fuentze fits it. Period. This whole shit. Policing language. He's not policing language. He's doing the opposite. Destiny's policing his own language. He's like, I can't say words if people think that I might mean something else. I can't just say what I mean when I say it. And Mr. Girl's saying, no, you can. You can just say what you mean. And then say it. That's what I'm looking for here.
Okay. That is not true. Everything you just said is not true. You're worried that he is going to play in my definition if I'm not willing to like stake out a moral position on it. But what you just said, I just want you to say if he adheres to your definition of Nazi. Well, what if I define Nazi in a really strict sense and I say no? You're not going to be happy with that. You're going to have a problem with that. Right?
I'm not going to have this problem with it. My problem is...
Yes, that's it. Mr. Girl would love to have a conversation with him about Nick Fuentze, about a lot of things involving Nick Fuentze. However, that conversation cannot happen until Destiny stakes out his position on whether or not he thinks Nick Fuentze is or isn't a Nazi. That's it.
Is that you're obfuscating and creating confusion for Fuentze's
I understand.
benefit
You've said this 50
and
million
for your own
times.
benefit.
Let me
then don't tell me I'm gonna. Don't then wait.
Okay.
Then when you say you're gonna have a problem with it, like yeah, I might not like it if you say the word Nazi is relegated to only describe people who are dead. We can never use it to describe somebody who's alive because if they were alive, they'd be over 120 and they would be the oldest person on Earth or something. Like yeah, if you're gonna use the word Nazi that strictly, I'm gonna have a problem with the utility of your definition. But that's a different problem than the problem I'm having. Your goal in the conversation is not to make me happy, and that's not what I'm asking you to do. That's an unfair framing. I'm asking you specifically to have a definition of Nazi, tell us what it is, and then have a definition of Fuentze, and tell us if you think he meets that definition. Or
yes,
if you don't have a definition, just say you don't have a definition. Say, I don't know what a Nazi
I don't know why he doesn't want to talk to you, Sfaxon. I can't answer that.
is, and I don't want to use that word, and then stop using it.
Okay,
or
let's say
I don't know. I have a definition, but I don't know what Nick Fuentze is. But my problem is you won't answer this clearly and consistently and concisely.
Okay, so you just want me to give you my...
Raul, he has said Nick isn't a Nazi based on... He said based on this definition, he's not. But he's not saying what his personal definition is. He's also said that Nick is a Nazi. I don't know what he thinks about you, Sfaxon.
Definition of Nazi.
I can't steal man when I've never heard him talk about whether he wants to talk to you or not.
I think that my definition of Nazi generally employs, number one, a high level of conspiratorial anti-Semitism, not just actual observations about Jewish people. So claiming that there are some type of like insidious plots can be a big part of that anti-Semitic thing, especially plots against your native race, right?
What are the chances that we're getting the new song before Thursday is over? So the information that I got, which I don't know if it's true or not, was from Mr. Girl's Discord, is that it's supposed to be dropping at midnight Pacific time, which sucks. So it looks like we got 6 hours to go. However, I am going to I'll still be awake. I won't be streaming still. Hey, thank you very much for the compliment, Elk. I appreciate that. I'll still be awake. I won't still be streaming when it drops, but I will be recording myself watch it because I want to give a first take. I really wanted to do a react to his last one. Unfortunately, when I was recording it, it was on Twitter and it was only like the first minute and 30 seconds. And like, I didn't want to fake reacting to the first part again and all that. It was just weird. So, because I didn't want to be disingenuous, I just didn't do it, which sucked because that's the kind of react content I would like to do.
Right. So that's a big form of anti-Semitism. So number one, that's a pretty important qualifier. Number two is usually...
This is kind of react, but I consider this to be more like, it fits the bill, but it doesn't feel the same as when I did like React Fridays. Because I've already seen this. This is something I already know about and all that. Mr. Girl streams on Kick, a crypto gambling website, and he supports it. He's just as bad as Destiny. He does not monetize Kick because he does not support the slot gambling. So he does stream on Kick to help his reach, but he does not monetize it because he's against the gambling.
Some sort of outward violence, or at the very least state-sponsored violence against ethnic minorities or other undesirables. So for instance, having like a state-sponsored plan to...
Also, what do you mean he's just as bad as Destiny? In what regards? I don't know. Yeah, I would have never heard an issue with Destiny that fits that issue. That's weird.
Or kill certain people of certain ethnic groups or certain people of like LGBT persuasions or other types of quote unquote undesirables, right?
Okay,
and then
can I ask a clarifying question?
Go ahead.
Does wanting state-sponsored violence count, or you're saying you have to actually act in state-sponsored violence?
No, it'd be the desire for it would make you.
Okay.
Right. And then thirdly is generally Nazis want to build some form of fascist state. So meaning they don't care about fucking democracy. They don't give a fuck about fucking Congress or any shit like that. Like they want a single party, populist ruler, authoritarian, possibly totalitarian, vertical control of society. That's usually...
Destiny streams on Kick. So are you saying that it's just like objectively bad to stream on Kick? No matter what? If that's your argument, then okay, I guess he's just as bad as Destiny then.
Usually what I think of when I'm thinking of
by that metric, I couldn't really
neo-Nazi
argue.
or Nazi. Those are the things that I'm thinking of. Insofar as that goes, Fuentes's outward positions are not there on, I don't think, on any of those three topics. Maybe a little bit on the third one, but on the first two, that is not his outward positions. So if you were to ask me, is America First a neo-Nazi movement or a Nazi movement? Probably not. I don't think so. Now, are there neo-Nazis in that movement? Almost certainly so. It's a large movement and it's very far right. And I think a lot of the rhetoric can be kind of amenable to those people. And if you ask me, is Nick Fuentze secretly a neo-Nazi? He could be. But that would be my stated positions on those three things. On Fuentze, on America First as a movement, the people in America First, and inside Nick's mind. So where would you go then from there?
I want to ask you just bullet point by bullet point.
Go.
You don't believe that Fuentze engages in conspiratorial anti-Semitism?
I haven't heard it as part of his stuff recently, but I could be shown clips that would convince me otherwise. Let me give a quick example of the two of these things. So if he says something like, I think that Jewish people all tend to vote or push politics in a certain way where they're kind of like, they want to always support Israel and they're kind of like fucking always looking out for themselves and shit, and it fucks the rest of us over a little bit. I don't think that that rises to the level of Jewish conspiracy. But if he says something akin to like what Lawrence Southern used to say with The Great Replacement, where he's like, I think there's a plan where these people are intentionally trying to eradicate white people, then that rises to a level of like Jewish conspiracy.
I'm just saying, based on what you know of him,
based on his recent rhetoric,
based on what you have already heard him say.
Yeah. based of this what I've heard recently, but this is something that I could be moved on. Somebody could send me a clip and go, he could say something like, oh yeah,
Sure.
Jewish people, I think they're actually really trying to fuck over white people.
But
So I'd be like, oh yeah,
but
yes,
if,
yeah.
okay, so are you saying I don't know, or are you saying, so like if somebody asked you about me, they said, do you think that Max engages in anti-Semitic conspiratorial thinking?
No, absolutely, I don't think so. I've never heard you even flirt with the ideas before.
Okay, so at somewhere between me and Nick, or Lauren, us flip switches, or switch flips, and then you say, okay, now I think you're maybe blah blah. So, are you saying you don't know? Are you saying probably not, yes or no?
He's never brought it up anywhere in a convo with me or alluded to it in a debate that I've seen him have, and I haven't been presented with content. So, but obviously his ideology lends itself towards those types of beliefs.
Shieldro, this aged so poorly for Destiny. I can't not be I'm thinking of that like a lot as I'm watching this. I'm like, damn, dude, this is like really, really bad in hindsight because we know so much more about Nick now that it's just like, oh fuck, man. I know Destiny doesn't go back and watch streams, but I bet he would just be like writhing with cringe if he heard himself giving these takes when we know very much that Nick's like, I guess I would be super shocked if somebody said that they still didn't think Nick Fuentze was a Nazi. Easily Destiny's biggest L long term. Bro was so uncomfortable calling Nick a Nazi for so long, but then getting called out for irresponsible platforming. But after getting called out for irresponsible platforming, he's trying to downplay the Nazi aspect so hard. Yeah, and like, I get it. It makes sense. I think that most people would. It just doesn't mean that it's not what it is, right? That's like the bigger, the broader issue is that it's just dishonest.
Beliefs. So it's possible, but I wouldn't accuse him of having.
Well, it's either dishonest or it's so wrong. Thank you very much, Elk. Yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind liking the stream, or if you're on Kick, give me a follow. That would be fantastic. I would greatly appreciate it. He should just admit he has no principles and say he prefers the content. Honestly, if he said that, that would get him out of all of this, right? Destiny would just have like Mr. Girl would have nothing. I think even the follow-up questions that Mr. Girl might have would just go nowhere because that's it. That's the whole thing. Like the game's over for this conversation if Destiny said that. But that would also hurt Destiny's brand like a lot to say.
Having those beliefs because I haven't heard them. I haven't had them presented to me. A lot of people email me about shit that he says and things. Yeah.
Are you not?
Which I'm not willing to say that Destiny just has no principles and he prefers the content because I don't know. At times it seems like he does have principles. But like he's a streamer. I don't know him. It's hard for me to say what somebody's intent is unless there's like a ton of like really easily to identify like steps along the way.
Willing to give a one-word answer?
No, not on this. No. And I think asking for one is bad faith. I would make that accusation. Because clearly I don't care.
I think it would be bad faith for me to attack you for not giving one.
Okay.
But I want one, and if you don't want to give it, that's fine.
Okay, what is your one-word question?
I guess the choices I would give you are the question is, does Nick Fuentze engage in anti-Semitic conspiracies? Or traffic in them? Yeah,
I'd say no, but it would be based on what I've seen so far. My mind could be changed to that. Somebody can send me a clip in it, but as of what I've seen so far, no.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what was
the
second,
amazing in hindsight
criteria for being a Nazi? It wasn't fascism, it wasn't dictatorship. It was
it's
his principles is only if it affects him. I think that's Destiny's like open. That's like openly what his principles are. Yeah. His entire like moral system is based around like what makes my life the best. So yeah, I don't think I disagree there, but I don't think that they would like I don't think it would bother him for that to be pointed out. You don't think he has any principles in the long run? Well, principles are only principles if they withstand like the long run. I would say a principle can be changed, but it would depend on how it was changed. If it's just sort of, I would say that a principle being changed in the moment is means that you didn't have the principle. Like if you were like sort of like tested or challenged on your principle and then you folded in the moment, not a principle that you had actually. But if you spent a long time thinking about something and you like sort of came to the conclusion based on information and reflecting how you feel about it and all that, then I would say a principle can shift or change. But yeah, Destiny had his eyes blind here. He wasn't looking into Nick's positions because the upside of not doing it. Y'all don't understand being elite from the jump. I think that Destiny did look into Nick's positions, but he just probably didn't do it as much on stream, and so he could get away with not talking about those parts. The creator, from being at the level others are not even able to see.
It's usually calling for like violent pogroms or pogroms.
Sorry, Optimist, you said you don't see that Destiny is an etymological genius. He does have god tier rhetoric. He's really good at that. Destiny's pretty good at appearing right even when he's wrong.
And shit like that, and like trying to like put people in camps of like undesirables and ethnic people. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that Nick Fuentze wants to do that?
I haven't seen it. I haven't heard or seen that. And it seems like he speaks to the contrary of that a lot.
Will you give a one-word answer?
The answer would be no. I don't think he engages in that. No.
Okay, so no conspiracy, no anti-Semitic conspiracy, no desire for violence against minorities.
Yes. No, as in yes, as in no. Yeah.
Right, got it. Okay. And the third one is fascism.
No as in yes.
Fascism, I'm not as sure, because he says weird shit about how he wants like a Christian monarchy. I don't know what the fuck he means by that, if he's actually sincere on that. I know that his group, he tries to get people to engage with the political system. So like he went up and supported Lori Loomer and shit. He might be illiberal. He might be anti-democratic though.
Said his rise to the level he is at is not replicable. Yeah, probably. He started Justin TV. He got in really early, so I would say that's probably he had unique advantages that just can't be replicated anymore.
I don't know if he would like lean full into fascism. It seems like he could or would, but I don't hear him talk about forms of government much. It feels like he's mostly concerned with getting his people to.
All right, I'm gonna shut off my camera for a few just because I'm eating, but I'll still be talking.
Engage in the current political system. But he could easily be a fascist, or that's what like his end goal would be. I'm just not sure. I haven't. I don't talk to him about like what his ideal style of government is. And when it comes up, he says Christian monarchy. I don't know what the fuck that means.
Okay, so what's your one-word answer, if you want to give one?
He said Christian monarchy. That's like the wildest phrase for a government I could imagine. A theocratic monarchy. Scary.
I would say on that one, probably maybe or yes.
Okay. Will you pick one or no?
Is he a fascist?
Yeah.
Yes, Elk. King Jesus.
I think he would be. I'll say yes on that one. I'll give you that one.
Okay, so he's a fascist, but you don't think he meets the other two criteria.
Yeah.
Have you read
I'm
Rose
saying yes to
Wrist's-
fascist.
Carneast? Oh, Caneast. I don't know what you mean, Tuna. Awesome. Hey, Tuna, it's nice to see you here, buddy.
Because he feels very anti-democratic to me. Yeah. So, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Have you read Rose Wrist's quote list?
Not yet. I never read quote lists from anybody for anything. But if somebody wants to give me more substantive stuff, like I'll go through it. But I'm not usually interested in like, here's 50 quotes over the past 6 years.
Kanyeist. Okay. That's pretty good.
Okay. A cross-examining question. If your answer to two of the criteria are no, why did you say he's basically a Nazi? I think the time before last we talked and on Twitter.
I already told you on Twitter for the purposes of fighting with Lance, because it's funny from the tweet, that if Lance believes that he's truly a Nazi, why is the one joke he would pick out the thing that didn't really have anything to do with Jews? That was stupid. The
Yayism. It's not bad either. Destiny's throwing out Christian monarchy as a red herring. in the true way. Hitlerist, Kanyeist, with his Spanderish characteristics, Jesus.
And then I would have to know the context of the other conversation where he was like basically a Nazi.
Okay, so your general stance, it sounds like now, is you're saying
I like
he
all
just
of
doesn't
this.
meet the criteria for Nazi.
To truly be considered like a Nazi or Nazi?
By you, to be considered, not truly, but by you.
I don't think so. Correct.
Okay. Do you see my concern
You weren't silenced by destiny at that point. I don't think, were you?
about the vagueness introduced by using that words in different contexts and different ways?
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Describe him if he I mean, even if he's just a fascist, creating a is he or isn't he narrative. Do you see how that I mean, do you see how that helps Trump in a way where then all the people
No, I see how you think it does, but I disagree with all of that. I think that all of these words are fucked regardless of my input.
Regardless of your input, do you see how a is he or isn't he a white supremacist narrative helped Trump?
Sure, I can, but I think people calling him a white supremacist helps Trump. I would accuse them more than any of the is he or isn't he people.
I'm pretty surprised that I've never been banned from any of Destiny's stuff. I've been pretty critical. I've shut up some shit in the Discord like way back in the past. Never even got like a warning or nothing.
No. I'm not saying the is he or isn't he people. I'm saying just the whole narrative around him being confusion around is he a white supremacist. I don't think Trump is a white supremacist, but I think progressives clinging to the idea that he is actually helps him because it really sucks the air out of any criticism of him.
What does say that?
Tuna says, I got banned my first day trying to talk in Vosh's Discord years ago. Get this. For calling Ted K Uncle Ted. That's really fucking funny. I banned myself from Vosh's Discord. When I saw that the Discord rules said that you'll get banned for mentioning Destiny, I was like, fuck this pussy ass shit, and I dipped. I can't be in a community where the speech policing is that hard, where you can't mention another person's name. Vosh lost a lot of respect for me on that one. Joker meme, I'm just ahead of the curb.
That again?
Progressives clinging to the idea that Trump is a white supremacist helps them because there just isn't a lot of evidence that he is, and he doesn't seem like one.
Okay.
Do you see how that confusion around that helps him?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see, from my perspective, that if Fuentes, even if he's just a fascist, any confusion around whether he is a Nazi, and specifically joking or ironic confusion, do you see how that helps him discredit his critics?
Yeah, it could, yeah.
Okay. So, so I feel like if you're saying he's basically a Nazi, if you're jokingly calling him a Nazi, but then if you're saying you don't think he meets the criteria for Nazi, but he meets
he's close enough for me to joke about it. Like, I might joke about Hassan being a tanky, but Hassan is absolutely not a tanky in any strict definition of the word. Neither is Vosh, but I might joke about it sometimes.
Yeah, so I'm concerned.
To this day, I actually don't understand what rigid definition there is for tanky.
About you joking about it with him because you're saying he meets the worst criteria. The worst part about Nazis is that they're fascists.
I disagree.
So like if somebody if somebody wants to kill you, but they're going to vote on it, then that's not that big of a problem. Somebody engages in conspiracy.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean that's not that big a problem? We were a democracy with slavery for 100 years. Over 100 years.
Wait, that's it? That's a pretty low threshold.
Years. How do you mean that's not that big of a problem? The Democratic Party of the United States didn't keep it from doing atrocities.
Yeah, it's a big problem, but I don't think it's as big of a problem. I'll put it that way.
So then Hassan would be a tanky, no?
Okay.
Okay. I think that engaging in anti-Semitic conspiratorial thinking. I'm saying if somebody
what I'm saying is that like there could be like
somebody just wanting to kill you, or wanting the government to kill you. Yes, it's a problem if enough people are unified in their beliefs about that, and then they start voting on it, like something like slavery happens. Yeah, that's bad. But most people in the United States have other people they want the government to kill. I think we're just kind of a bloodthirsty nation, and democracy prevents us from doing terrible, terrible things to each other. So that's what I mean when I say that. I'm not trying to downplay the incidence of racial violence in democratic nations. I'm saying that right now, when I think of, well, what's stopping...
I don't think I want my government to kill anybody. At least not right now.
Genocide from happening now, democracy is like the first thing that comes to mind. So I'm not... If I hear somebody has...
Well, at least not anybody like any group identities. Stemming off of that, terms like unapologetic or uncritical support for past authoritarian states. I see. I think about it.
Conspiratorial thoughts about Jews or any other race, like, yeah, that's concerning or upsetting, but like a lot of fucking people do. I just don't care that much about that part. I care about it only because of what that person would do if they came to power. But the only reason I care about that is if that person wants to take over the government, which I already know Fuentes does because he fucking tried to do it. He literally tried to overthrow the government, and you're saying like he might be.
Stop making the emotional appeals. Wait, stop making the emotional appeals. It's super cringe. Don't fucking do that to me. That's because then I'm gonna start crying.
The age of the Giga Chad is over, bitch. I will make emotional appeals. This is an emotional topic for me.
So saying like, I don't think. Oh wait, I probably can say that on YouTube. So saying that Kulaks deserved it or Gusano. To be honest, it's a dated term. I never heard tanky until like Twitch discourse, so I thought it was like a newer term.
I care about my country and I love my
I guess it could still be dated though.
Country when somebody tries to overthrow.
Destiny was already not going to give. Mr. Girl thought he'd be able to turn Destiny over. This is sad. Mr. Girl was being a buddy. Yeah. Oh, that's weird. Do you know why it's called tanky then? I don't really see the lines. How they drew that to like get that word.
The government, I get upset about it.
But I'm interested.
An emotional appeal. I was making a logical appeal. He literally tried to overthrow the government, which you agreed with the last time we talked. And you're saying he's a fascist in a way where you're like, I'll bite the bullet and say he's probably a fascist.
Okay, and I would say that one of the huge contributing factors for how we ever got to that point was people's inability to engage with the other side, and one of those inabilities is the obsession with using words like Nazi, fascist, racist.
It's my fault that Nick Fuentes tried to overthrow the government.
Partially, yes.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to get away from, because I can do every single part of my job. I'm going to keep talking because you just talked for 20 fucking minutes, okay? I can do
Oh, sorry. If it's called tanky because you want to like violently enforce socialism on other countries, that makes sense. By like rolling your tanks in and be like, hey, treat everybody good and equal or we'll blow you up. The term derives from the fact that the divisions within the communist movement first arose with the Soviet Union sent tanks into communist Hungary in 1956. Thank you. Destiny's already broken over defending forethought. Appreciate all your guys' information on tanky. I am more informed now.
every single part of my job that I need to do as effectively as possible without ever calling somebody a Nazi or a racist or whatever the fuck. I don't need to use any of those words to attack all the ideas, to give people an accurate assessment of what other people believe, and to discourage people from following certain bad ideologies. And I would
It exists in contrast to previous theory of socialism, which was called cosmopolitan because it believed in order for socialism and then communism to be successful, it needed to happen globally, aka all at once. I see. So it's saying that we have to aggressively spread it like the plague
say that by using
with our tanks.
any of those words, I'm putting myself at a disadvantage because just like in a movie, when you use a real life song inside the movie, there might be thoughts or feelings that a listener or viewer has that I have completely lost control over by bringing in that word. So I avoid doing that completely. I only attack the ideas. I only go after people on the merit of things. I avoid all of the extra baggage of all the extra bullshit. I don't lose anybody because I'm just throwing around words that may or may not be accurate depending on how they define them. And I can do all of that perfectly. When people like you come in and try to say, you need to call somebody a Nazi, you need to call somebody a fascist, you are contributing to the further divide of these people going, oh, he's calling it that, I'm not that, I'm leaving. So you and your types of people that are insistent on using these words as weapons are the ones that are making all of the discourse worse, and you're making it harder for me to do what I do. You're not contributing anything.
He's giving Destiny the cherry destroyer. That's good. I really like that. Holy shit. I'm almost done eating camera. I'll be back on in a minute. You almost made me lose my food with that one.
Anything positive to the discourse by insisting that I call somebody a Nazi. If they're a Nazi and he has Nazi beliefs, then I will call out the Nazi beliefs like I have on panels, and people will have those Nazi beliefs, and then we'll move on from there. That's how I prefer to operate. And
yes, the cherry popper.
that's how I've been operating, and it's been working pretty well so far.
Did I insist that you call him a Nazi?
It seems like you insist that I have some solid, rigid definition for it that I maintain through every single context, and I strictly adhere to it in every context.
Is that the same
That's not even true.
as insisting that you call him a Nazi?
Well, I don't know. I said that I wouldn't call him a Nazi, and it seemed like that upset you, and now you're trying to give me all the reasons why I should call him a Nazi.
No, I never said you should call him a Nazi.
Then what's the problem if I don't want to call him a Nazi then? Then what are we even fighting about?
Well, right. Right now we're fighting because you just said I'm insisting that you call him a Nazi, and I want you to
I'm not
admit
asking
that...
about this particular statement. Let's back up on the macro level. What are we arguing about then? If you're okay with me not calling him a Nazi, what is this conversation
Shit. I said Destiny has to actually be retarded to not understand this, and he's not, which means he is deliberately not understanding this. Mr. Girl laid it out super plainly, super clearly. I want you to have a definition and pick it. That's it. That's what the whole thing's been about. He's been super clear about it. I can't, but like, oh my God. If I was talking to somebody like Destiny, who's as good at talking as Destiny, and have that happen to me, I would lose my fucking mind. We didn't say you should unmute. We just wanted you to know. Thank you. Every time Drazi is talking while muted, I imagine him verbally abusing his wife. I wouldn't do that. I'd just hit her. Off camera. I don't want to show any evidence of it. I just... Real quick. See, you don't know what that was. I could have popped her right in the eyeball. You'd never know.
I want you to admit that I've never told you that I insist you call him a Nazi. I've never actually said that, right?
You might not have said that, but what you said is that by me not calling him a Nazi, I'm providing cover for him to become potentially the
That's a good idea.
new neo-Nazi dictator in the United States, which I
No,
assume is bad.
I haven't said that either. I haven't said that either.
Hold on.
I have gotten a lot better with it because I have my stream deck like right in front of me. So usually when I mute, but that was I'm getting a lot better with it, but sometimes I still fuck it up. But that's a good idea. I'll have to have you help me with that. That's funny.
will say, I think you have my thesis written down, right? By being inconsistent.
Hold on, wait. I'm pulling my audio. I'm curious on this one. Did Mr. Girl say that
wait, you
my
can't pull your audience. You just told them something. You're going to tell them something.
Okay, ask. You said it, so they'll remember. Did Mr. Girl say that my refusal to use the word Nazi provides cover?
You control what the audience thinks, Steve.
That this is like really, really bad. Like for somebody that's at the caliber of Destiny, he should be embarrassed to do like he's just trying to ratio him with everybody that agrees with him, like the people that mostly agree with him. Okay, but I can't stand the like attempting to ratio this way is like it's like the lowest way of like engaging with somebody in any kind of a debate. It should be. I just feel like he should be absolutely embarrassed. I don't think I've ever seen him do this before, either. If anybody has, and you could link me to it, I'd be super interested to see because this feels like a wholly unique thing that Destiny did with his back against the wall,
and allows him
because he just doesn't want to give a single inch to Mr. Girl here.
To become a fascist dictator.
You wrote down my thesis. Just fucking read it.
Which one? Where?
I don't know. I can't see your screen, but I assume
for the conversation today, it's whether or not my community has 100% control over a word or whatever.
That's what something you said I said that I didn't say, and then I accused you of gaslighting when you did that. So no, I didn't say that either.
Wait,
I've never said you have 100%. Wait, let me be clear. I have at no point ever said.
Yeah, Destiny has all that stuff written down that he didn't respond to.
You should call him a Nazi if you don't think he's a Nazi. I'm saying I want you to formulate an opinion of Fuentes and formulate a definition of the word Nazi, and then I want you to decide, which you've agreed to do, and you already just did, so I don't know why you're still saying that I'm insisting you call him a Nazi. I want you to decide whether you think he's a Nazi or not, and then I want you to give an answer to that question, which you did. I've never told you should call him a Nazi. You shouldn't call somebody a Nazi if you don't think they're a Nazi.
So now that we've answered that question,
the fact that he had to bring it up again is like I said, I'd be beyond fucking furious. I think Mr. Girl did a pretty good job of like not losing his absolute shit here, because I would have. God, that's when somebody already agrees with me, or like we've already like agreed on a thing and then move past it, and then have them like give me the same like misunderstood take that they had prior before we resolved it. And so like, I'm explaining this wrong. If I have a disagreement with somebody, and then we talk about it, and then we move past it, like I think that this is I think that thing is green. I think that thing's blue. If later you agree with me that it's blue, and then we're talking, and he said, "Yeah, but I don't want to because it's green." How are we even back there? We talked about it. We both agreed that it's blue. Like we're so far down now. Why are you bringing it back to this? That's the hardest thing for me to cope with when I'm trying to talk to a person. And this has happened to Mr. Girl like 80 times now through these 3 streams. He keeps being told that he's not saying what he's saying, and that he said something else. And then even when it's agreed, then it still gets reframed after the fact. It's
question. What is the rest of our conversation about?
I'd lose my goddamn mind.
Well, now the conversation's about how you just fucking said.
No, you're a dude. Oh my god. Let's eject this part of the conversation. Eject it. Okay. I was wrong in everything. What are we talking about now? Now that I've said I wouldn't define him as a Nazi. Are you actually
conceding that you were wrong about that?
Yes, I was wrong about everything I just said. So what I'm asking you now is, what is the conversation?
That doesn't feel like a real concession. It feels like you're saying it doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's.
You get to say that I said something I didn't say.
Okay.
Then poll your audience to see if they think I said it, because you
I
just
was
said
wrong
that I said
about whatever you just said. Whatever I said, whatever you said I was wrong about, I'm wrong about. 100%.
And god damn it. It's valid to be upset about that. It's valid to call that out. You try to put that onto somebody, and then just like walk away from it saying I'm wrong about whatever I said. I don't care. That's super shitty. Like I'd be irate. And that's pretty hard to do. I'm usually like pretty chill most of the time, but I would be like, I'd be at like a fucking 50 out of 10. Let's see. I watched The Great Tragedy of Pewgate today at work, and I'm still think Mr. Girl handled Cherry with so much maturity and grace. Dude, nobody in any space responds that like adult to something like that. That's I've never seen anybody in real life be as adult about somebody misunderstanding and saying something that terrible about you. That was truly impressive. Destiny projecting his gaslighting behavior onto Mr. Girl. Sfaxon says, United we fall, but he why remember the issue of Prime Detective? I don't. When you're from a planet of fives, meeting ones, you let them do their thing. You're faming after the fact the official reason why I was banned from Mr. Girl's own place. So it's like people staring at the sun and saying it's night. Destiny is like Play-Doh in a hydraulic press, spurting out everywhere and reacting to pressure. Mr. Girl is playing whack-a-mole with Destiny's arguments here. That's a pretty elegant little package that you put it in, Shieldro. Respect. Imagine having to smurf to get down to 50 and I'm like power level 777, so I get strong against disingenuous liars. Okay. There's a lot of messages in there, Specs, and I think you're losing me a bit here and there.
Okay, so now my question is, now that I've given you my definition of Nazi, and I said I don't think America...
I want to respond to something else you said.
What are we talking about? What do we disagree on now?
I don't know. I'm responding to shit you're saying. If you want to steer the conversation in a different direction after that, that's fine. But I do want to respond to the idea that you're lumping me in with, you said, types of people like you. You're kind of people who insist on calling people Nazis. I don't think that's fair. I don't know of any other person that I've ever seen publicly say, I don't think you need to call this person a Nazi. I don't think you need to say that they're not a Nazi. My concern is that you don't have a clear definition of Nazi, and you don't seem to have a clear stance on this person, and I just want you to clarify for your audience what that is, because I think by...
Of all the people I've ever heard say they think somebody is a Nazi, Mr. Girl is the most chill about that. His point right here is, like, phenomenal.
Being vague and dodgy about it, you are creating confusion, which serves that person's destructive
I understand.
goals.
So I've given you a clear definition, and I've given you a clear stance. So are we completely resolved now on the conversation, or is there any other
No, I got another issue. But
Okay.
do you agree that my position that I'm presenting to you is actually kind of unique and not a standard progressive position, or whoever the fuck you're accusing me of being like?
Sure, it can be unique, but the prescriptions that you make at the end of the day end up being almost identical to the ones a lot of progressives have made. But maybe not. Maybe it'll change. What do we...
I don't think Mr. Girl gave a fucking prescription. And also, God, I don't like that. Sure, but like that. Sure, but it really just sounds like no. It seems like he said yes to Mr. Girl, and then everything else he said made it a no to the audience.
We go sneaky. Now from this position. I've given you a clear definition, and I've given you a clear stance.
Again, I've never heard a progressive make the prescription. Come up with your own definition of Nazi. Inform your audience of what that is.
Yep.
Then come up with your own sense of this person. I've never heard a progressive say that. Have you?
Okay. I just
That's my prescription. That is the prescription.
Okay.
Have you heard?
If that's the prescription, then we're in agreement. Then we're all good on this. I've given you a clear definition. I've given you a clear stance. You have no other issues.
My other issue is the question I was asking you, which I think you evaded by saying that slavery was democratically voted for, which is true and a good point you brought up. However, the question was, do you see why I'm concerned about the is he or isn't he a Nazi narrative, which has been going on in your community for a while about Lauren, like jokes about how she's our Nazi queen, and then people kind of get freaked out and saying like, wait a second, but she's actually Nazi, and then people making videos about it, and people saying like, no, she's not that bad, or she's reformed, and then she says something, and everybody's like, oh, Jesus Christ. She talks to Pisco, and then she's like, oh, it's like, oh, she hasn't changed at all. Oh my God, like that whole thing clearly sanitizes her, and I think that it sanitizes Fuente.
Sfaxon, you say that stuff, but like I actually don't know any of that. I'm not saying that it's not true, but like I'm not very active in other people's discords. I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know that people make stuff up about you to get you banned. I've never seen that happen before. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. That just means I'm not in those discords and like active. Like you think I am. Because you've said that directly to me before. And I'm just like, dude, I don't like read much shit. I pop in once in a while and say stuff.
Because
any of every conversation that we've had, the conversation with Pisco, she got destroyed.
Yeah.
Without ever having to call anybody a Nazi. When I went in, so Gideon and Abba said that neither of them.
I'm talking about before that.
I don't think.
Well, look, I generally have a hard time understanding what you're saying, so I'm not trying to represent you. I get confused when I read your stuff a lot. Destiny trying to get everyone to forget that he was wrong about what he was wrong about. Move on ASAP. You got it.
My refusal to call somebody a Nazi, and you're telling me I shouldn't say it if I don't believe they are. I don't think that's giving them cover.
Rude.
Just find the bad. Why is it so hard to find the bad?
In this context, that's rude.
Bad position, attack the bad positions.
I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm saying that the confusion about is she a Nazi, or is it funny that she's a Nazi because she's not really a Nazi, but she just seems like one, or is she kind of a Nazi? The confusion around that becomes a meme. Becomes funny. Wait, let me finish. It becomes funny in itself, and the same thing happened with Trump.
I don't care. I don't care.
Well, that's fine if you don't care about what I'm saying. Then let me finish.
I don't care about like the confusion on if somebody is or isn't a Nazi.
Okay, that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
I've already given you my definition. Why do you care? I've given you my definition.
There is no other examples of Destiny just not understanding somebody this strong this many times in a row. It's just deliberate. It has to be. It has to be for me to be able to respect Destiny's intelligence. It has to be on purpose. Like, I feel like either his integrity or his intelligence has to be damaged in this by a viewer. Like, there's no way that both can remain intact.
The question is...
Okay, so hold on. Then you were wrong before when you said you just wanted me to give a clear definition and a clear stance, because now you're bothered. You are going back to the business. You're bothered by people being confused if they are or aren't a Nazi. I've given you a clear stance.
I want you to let me ask this question. I've been trying to ask this question for 5 minutes.
If it's taking you 5 minutes to ask a question, that's your problem, okay? But go ahead.
I don't think it is.
It
I think
absolutely
it's actually because you keep derailing it.
It's absolutely not.
This question's going to take me less than 30 seconds to ask.
Okay.
But every time you say anything, that timer doubles. Okay. I don't remember what the question. Oh yeah. Do you see how it creates confusion when you use the word Nazi jokingly, use it seriously, say he's basically a Nazi, say he's not a Nazi, when you use this like wide variety of definitions and uses and in different contexts? Do you see?
Hey, I just seen that we have a lot of people on Kick. If you don't mind, give me a follow. It's free. I would appreciate it a whole bunch. See, and for fun Q&A reflect, I'm saying you, Elder Drazi, are subconsciously doing very similar to what I'm saying. You, Destiny, me, Mr. Girl. Yeah, I understood that part, but I just don't, like, I actually don't know any of the stuff that you're talking about. But you have told me directly before that I do know about it, and, like, I ignore it or whatever. So I'm just telling you, like, I've never seen that stuff, so I don't actually know about it.
See how all that adds up to the same
like,
kind of
I
is he or
believe you,
isn't he a Nazi?
but I don't know it.
Narrative that I think has helped Trump and has helped Lauren Southern.
No.
Okay.
I think that the only confusion it creates is around those words themselves. And I think the obsession with those words has created confusion where it really matters, which is confusion around their positions. And I think on that subject, my community has more clarity on the actual positions of any of these far-right people I've ever talked to than any other progressive or left-leaning community. And I think that other communities' obsessions with using these words is what leads them to have more confusion about the actual stated positions. And I think that the clarity that you're looking for, the clarity that you are looking for is clarity that does not matter. So, for instance, it might be the case
If it didn't matter, he could just give it.
that if I go into other communities, there is a huge amount of clarity. If I go into Hassan or Vosh's community, there is a ton of clarity on whether or not Lauren Southern or Nick Fuentze is a Nazi. 100% clarity. And in my community, there is far less.
Hey, Portland, what's up, my guy? Things are going pretty good here. They're doing even better on Kick. Although I have almost as many viewers as followers, so not all of them can be following me, but they should. Otherwise, pretty good. Save for my voice. My voice is fucked.
Clarity, far less clarity on if they are or if they are not a Nazi. Now, you might look at that and you might go, wow, that's really good. There's a lot of clarity in Vosh's community and in Hassan's community, and there's none in your community. And you might say, look at that lack of clarity. Look at that confusion. But what I would say is you're looking for clarity in the wrong place.
I don't think that I think bringing up those other communities is just a way to obfuscate it. Destiny's basically trying to say, hey, people in my audience generally don't side with Hassan or Vosh. We don't do this because we're different. So I think that's, I feel like that's more of a, like propaganda-y move to say that stuff than I actually combat what Mr. Real saying. Glad things are going well despite you sounding a little scratchy. What's up? Elk, having a good night on your end.
You're looking for clarity on whether or not people have unified around a tribally defined word. And in that sense, other communities do have more clarity than mine. But when it comes to stated positions, there is total obfuscation in both Vosh's subreddit and Hassan's subreddit. They do not know a single fucking policy position of almost any of the people that they criticize. But if you go into my subreddit, they're arguing, is he a Nazi or is he not? Well, he said this, 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 and this, and then he said this, this, and this. They're actually engaging with the content. They're arguing back and forth on facts of the matter. If I go into Vosh's community, there is 100% clarity on whether or not Nick Fuentze is a Nazi. There's about 90% clarity on whether or not I'm far right. But there's 0% clarity on any of our policy positions. So when you ask me, do you see how you're obfuscating?
It's the subreddit
I can
lie.
guess, sure, maybe I'm obfuscating around the term Nazi or the term fascist, but that's not where I want clarity on because I don't give a fuck about the tribally defined words. I just...
Obviously, Destiny cares to some degree. This is the third conversation he's been willing to have about it. If he really didn't care, he'd just say this argument's stupid. I'm not going to have it. Having a good day, thanks, and a good night. My health picked up today. Feeling better, health as well. I didn't know you weren't feeling good, Elk. Glad to hear that you are better now.
I just want my community to understand what the people think. And in that sense, my community has more clarity than any other left-leaning community on the internet. That's what I would say.
Okay. I agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree the frame that you're introducing by saying it. You're saying that I want you to use the word and that you don't use it. But you do use the word. My problem is the way you use the word. So I'm not saying, like, yeah, you do a good job of elucidating other people's positions. That's true. And you do a good job of making sure that that's important and that that comes to, to the forefront of the conversation and that your community understands it. I think that's good. I have no problem with you doing that, and I agree with your criticisms of most left-leaning communities, or most communities in general. That's all good and fine. But the question I'm asking you is, and you said no, is do you see why I'm concerned about your use of the word Nazi? Not that you're using it incorrectly, or not that I want you to use it.
Would Destiny ever have considered Lauren Southern a Nazi? I don't remember. I feel like it got brought up like on stream a long time ago, but it's hard to remember. Maybe.
It's that you are using it. You're using it seriously to refer to Nick Fuentze sometimes. You're using it ironically sometimes, and then other times you're saying, like today, if we get down to brass tacks, like, no, I don't think he's a Nazi.
Yeah, I can see your problem. But the difference is I don't care about that sort of confusion. It's all like meta-ironic human stuff.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole argument we're having is you don't care about that. And I'm saying...
I thought the argument was whether or not I had a clear definition and a clear stance about what a Nazi is. Now you want to change the argument to, am I contributing to the muddying of the definition of these words? If you want to have that argument, then I'll say, oh, yeah, I guess I probably am when I use them jokingly.
No,
I just don't care.
No, I don't care about the word.
Okay, then let's back up. Tell me what we're talking about right now. I don't know what our disagreement is. What are we talking about right now?
I've accused you of helping Nick Fuentze rise in power by giving him cover, by refusing to have a serious and consistent opinion about whether he's a Nazi.
Yes. I just really applaud how good of a job he's done not getting lost in any of this.
Okay, and I disagree with the premise.
I would crumble under this kind of like fucking nonsense that Destiny's thrown at him. He's done a really good job here.
Because I think that him rising to power isn't
I don't know if I would be able to maintain my own position through this, basically, is what I'm saying. I think that I would get confused about what I was trying to say by this point.
By people knowing if he is or isn't a Nazi. I think the one of the reasons why people like this are able to get up.
That's
to
not.
power.
Wait. I know that's not the premise.
Max is helping his friend.
That was your
Yes.
question. You said, I've accused you of helping Fuentes rise to power by giving him cover, by not having a serious and consistent opinion of him being
And that's the thing about this, right? Yes, this is master level gaslighting. This is the thing about this is that Destiny has been speaking to his audience the entire time. Mr. Girl's been talking to his friend the whole time. He's been trying to get him to understand something that he's worried about. And he's not just worried about what Destiny's audience will think. He's worried about Destiny. And that's what makes it kind of a bummer.
a Nazi. Is that what you said, or am I wrong?
Well, let's run through the different possibilities here. What if you thought Nick Fuentes was a Nazi and you said it?
Then you probably would think I'm doing a good job.
By having
Destiny has a lot under the pot lid on all the posts on his pots on his stove.
chicken and waffles with him? Giving him a streaming career potential?
No, you might have other problems past that, but you would prefer me to have called him a Nazi and to be serious about calling him a Nazi than not. You would be happy with that thing. There might be other problems past that.
Well, yeah. Do you see that it would create pretty big problems for you and your career if you said, yes, this person's a Nazi, he wants to become the dictator of the country, and he wants to kill the Jews, and he wants to do all this other horrible shit, and then you're like buddy with him? Like, do you see that would be a problem? I'm not saying that you're not saying this because
people have said this about me forever. I don't care. Of course, this is. Hold on. So you think that I'm trying to sanitize Fuentes because I don't want to hurt my own image?
No, I'm saying, do you see that if you took that stance, that would cause problems for you? Whether you want to cause those problems for yourself or not.
I don't. I don't agree with that whatsoever. Absolutely.
That's a dumb take. Destiny, it would hurt him. I find that kind of ironic given the way he treats this with such professional standards and keeps people like you at such an obvious arm's length. Hearing you say he's worried about his friend. At this point, Mr. Girl had like a big, deep love and respect for Destiny. It's hard to I think it's hard to look at some of these older things and keep the like framing of the time like fresh and like to see what was happening with like the same eyes that were available at the time. But like at this point in time, Mr. Girl fucking absolutely loved Destiny.
Absolutely.
You don't think it would create problems for
Absolutely
you
not.
to say
No.
to help the career of a literal Nazi who wants to gas the Jews?
No. I don't think me calling him a Nazi or not is going to influence at all.
I don't know when that was, but I've done all these in order. But I don't think that would contradict. Sorry, he goes on to characterize Destiny's boss very shortly after this, right? It wasn't, within weeks, sure, but that doesn't mean that. Certainly tension built between them after this and continued to grow, but that doesn't mean that he didn't like care a lot about him and still have a ton of respect for him. He certainly did.
All how the public perceives that. There's not a single
I'm
person
not saying
that's like.
it would. I'm not what I'm saying. I'm saying, do you think it would create career problems for you if you said that Nick Fuentes is a Nazi and still was buddy with him?
Not any more than it is now of me saying he's not a Nazi and being buddy with him.
Really? You don't think your community would be like, well, if you actually think he literally wants to gas the Jews, then like, why?
Hold on, no, that was a horrible trying to say those two things were the same. Him being a Nazi and him wanting to gas the Jews are two different things. Those are two different statements. If Fuentes was on his stream talking about like, I want to gas the Jews, when we get into power, we need to kill these blacks and blah, 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 blah. Those would be pretty extreme policy positions that I would have a much rougher time.
I thought that was your definition of Nazi. What am I?
Yeah, but I am not Okay, dude, bro, hold on. You just smuggled so much into that sentence.
Wait, if Destiny agrees that's his definition of Nazi, and then Mr. Grill uses that definition to describe him and say you don't think your audience would have a problem with it, why would Destiny think he snuck anything in? That's very confusing for me.
Holy fuck. So you're saying if I called him a Nazi, insofar as what my definition of Nazi is, implies that he's a totally different person than what he actually is.
No.
If I thought he was an actual card-carrying neo-Nazi, hold on, no. If I thought he was an actual
If you actually thought he was a Nazi and you said he was,
then me hanging out with him, would be significantly different. A chicken and waffles thing probably wouldn't happen. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I'm saying that by your admission now, it would make a pretty big difference if your opinion was that he is a Nazi.
No.
It changes.
No.
It changes.
Not if my opinion was that he was a Nazi, that if he was actually a Nazi. You're implying a whole different set of stated beliefs.
No, it doesn't matter. If you say, guys, I think Nick...
How can Destiny's idea of if Nick actually was a Nazi, or his opinion of Nick was that he was a Nazi, if his opinion is that Nick's a Nazi, then that means for Destiny, that's just what he is. When Destiny's the speaker here, these two mean the exact same thing. You can be friends with your boss. Both parties just have to be hyper aware of the dynamic. True. Do not conflate. It deflates. Okay.
Nick Fuentze wants to gas the Jews, and I'm still going to go out for chicken and waffles with him. That will create career problems for you, whether it's true or not.
Okay, yeah, it probably would. Sure.
Because you're saying, I will have chicken and waffles with somebody who wants to gas the Jews. I will laugh with him while he asks the guy on the street if he's Jewish, knowing full well that if he ever gets into power, he's going to kill that guy and his family.
Sure. Yeah, I would admit that would create career problems. Yeah, probably.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So I'm trying to walk you through how this actually does matter.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if in your definition of Nazi, if he is a Nazi, then you can't really hang out with him like that.
Oh, I don't like the framing. I can, but yeah, it would be bad for my career. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I shouldn't.
You
okay.
can. You
True.
can do whatever. Yes.
Yes.
You can.
Okay.
Okay. If he's not a Nazi, and you definitively say that he's not a Nazi, and then it comes out later that he is, that's bad for you also.
No, I have no problem with that. There could be things that I've missed. I'm not fully committed on 100% one way or another that, like, I've heard all of his...
He says that, but people in here said that the stage really bad, so I think that's true. I don't think Mr. Girl thinks you can truly be friends with your boss in an authentic way. I think the power dynamics that render that impossible from Mr. Girl's perspective. I don't think so. I think that he thinks that it is harder, and you have to acknowledge that relationship, which is why for a long time before they spoke, Mr. Girl acknowledged the power dynamics and the kind of relationship that Destiny and Mr. Girl had. Like for quite a few streams. It was really funny. It happens enough, and I thought it was so funny that the first time that I talked to Destiny, the first thing I said to him was like, all right, I think we need to talk about the power dynamics between our relationship, or in our relationship here. That was the first thing I said to him, because it was so regularly said by Mr. Girl. So I think that's just a prerequisite for Mr. Girl for that to happen, because it is difficult to have those kinds of relationships.
There's a lot of content I haven't seen. Like, my opinion is informed of him, of the conversations I have with him, the clips of him that I end up seeing, and then the emails that I get about him. But it's possible that somebody could show me clips. Maybe Rose Wrist will say, like, hey, Steven, like, you need to check this. And there's like a 20-minute rant of him being like, listen, dude, we got to do something with blacks, LGBTs, Jewish people, whatever. Sure. And I'd say that and I'd be like, oof, that's pretty shitty. Like, if I would have known that, I don't know if we would have had, like, fucking lunch together. Okay, that's like way more extreme shit. Yeah.
That's going to make you look dumb to a lot of people if that happens.
Okay, sure.
You can say you don't care, but that's true. Like,
sure, yeah, it could. Yeah, sure, it could. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. What will make you look the least dumb is if you didn't have an answer. It's obviously the safest position is to say, well, I've kind of called him a Nazi. I've kind of called him not a Nazi. And I've said I don't know. Like, that's clearly the safest position.
Yeah, it's also the most...
Mr. Girl's perspective is that you can be friends with your boss, but the power dynamic is an important factor in how you interact with each other. I think he thinks you could totally, authentically be friends with your boss. Destiny does care if he looks dumb. He was about to cap hard.
Intellectually honest answer too, but that's just a coincidence. But go ahead.
It's also the best position for Fuentze, is for people to not know, for it to be a joke, for people to join his audience and become radicalized that way. Like, oh, I thought we were just joking, but no, the stuff he's saying makes a lot of sense. That's totally possible and totally plausible. And he said that himself. He said that I'm going to hide my anti-Semitism in jokes so that I have plausible deniability. Okay, so I guess I'm comparing it to Trump again, because I think it has this effect of making it really fun to be his fan, because you get to trigger the libs they hate you. It's fun when they hate you, and they hate you like you're a Nazi, but you're not a Nazi. You're just a Trump supporter. You're not actually a white supremacist. You just, hate these fucking people who don't understand. And it also provides cover, because then Trump can kind of dog whistle, and he does it on purpose. He gets to dog whistle.
I don't provide cover to Fuentze. Being obsessed over whether or not I call him a Nazi or not, I don't provide cover to Fuentze. You do when you insist on these words like this, but I don't cover.
Well, I don't think Destiny. I think is fine to say that he doesn't think he provides cover, even whether I agree or disagree. But I certainly don't think that Mr. Girl's providing him cover by doing this.
Okay. So you don't think that progressives calling Trump...
And I don't think that Nick thought that either, which is why he mass reported, or got the Groypers to mass report. Destiny just looped.
A white supremacist provides cover for him because it creates confusion. Because there isn't really a basis.
The cover there isn't that they're calling him a white supremacist. That's part of it. But the greater cover is that they don't actually address his policy positions.
Agreed.
Like, if you were to talk to most people and say Trump, if you were to tell most, here's the thing.
If
you tell most progressives, sure, I want this to be stated for the record, for the stenographer in the corner taking notes, okay? If you were to tell most progressives, Trump...
It's me, I'm the stenographer in the corner.
Was actually kind of moderate as far as Republicans go. Most of them would say absolutely not. But if you pull progressives, they'd probably say less than 5% would believe that. In terms of his policy positions and like everything that he advocated for, like,
you jerks make me have to type.
Legislatively, Trump was actually fairly moderate as far as Republicans go. They'd lose their fucking mind. But that's true in terms of policy positions. They say, well, no, he's a white supremacist, racist, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay. A lot of Republicans are.
Yeah.
But not race supremacists. But yeah, so I think that the cover is being provided by people that are calling them the word. Yeah. But I don't think that it's just because they're calling them, because they're not attacking the policy positions.
Okay.
Yeah, go, okay.
Okay, so let me bring it home by saying you are playing that role by calling him the word when you don't mean it.
Okay.
You are making it into a fun, and it's funny. Your audience definitely thinks it's funny when you call him a Nazi to his face, jokingly, and he thinks it's funny. But the problem is that ambiguity is his only path to growing an audience.
But I think that the
Nazis.
ambiguity is not caused by people just calling him the.
Hey, Big C, what's up, man? I'm doing my best here with my heavily medicated throat. It's been pretty good so far.
It's the lack of willingness to attack him on his positions.
I'm not saying that it is caused by that. That's a strong man.
Okay, well then, in that case, I don't provide that cover because I'll attack them on the policy positions.
I don't think it's caused by that, but I think by disambiguating your use of the word Nazi, it would actually have a meaningful impact.
Sure, and I 100% disagree because every other left-leaning community will use that word in unison far more than mine, and every single left-leaning community has far less of an understanding of any of the policy positions of any of the far-right people
But don't you think that their use of that word is...
Damn, you sound worse than Biggie Smalls. Yeah, I'd say it's almost certainly the possibility.
Is flailing and inconsistent?
The other communities?
Yeah,
I do.
It makes
but
no
the
sense
thing I'm more upset about is
if you're going to say Hitler is a Nazi and then you're going to say Trump is a Nazi and then you're going to say.
But my issue is less of their use of the word. It's that they won't even go after the policy. They don't even know the policy positions.
That's fine. I know you. Yeah, I agree. This is a good thing about you. I like your content. I think you're good at that. I agree with you. You're good at getting the policy.
I really like the Chris Pratt as a Nazi one.
Positions and talking about them. It's very important, and I agree with you. But it's not what we're talking.
Which side note? I saw the Super Mario Brothers movie. It was fucking great.
Talking about. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about how your criticisms of how the left uses the word Nazi inconsistently is what I'm saying about you. I'm saying if you're using that word, you're calling somebody a Nazi who you don't really think is a Nazi, or who you...
I don't think that power dynamics with your boss point is accurate to Mr. Girl's beliefs, but I don't really care enough to argue, so I'll take your word for it. Also, Destiny was wrong about all of this. Super Mario Bros. Is actually on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, I heard a ton of bad things about it. It was so fucking good. There was a part where they just did like 2D like side-scrolling thing that was like they were in a Mario game towards the beginning, and there was already like so much like cool Mario stuff in it that like I had like a tear come out of my face, and like I didn't even know that I was like that emotionally like invested in the movie yet. It just felt awesome. The whole movie felt great. Highly recommend it.
You think is sort of a Nazi.
Destiny was never Mr. Girl's boss. No, but the analogy made sense, I thought.
And somebody who you just said you think is a fascist. Like, fascists kill people.
Yes, and my
And if
argument,
he's going to kill people,
I don't care about the emotional argument. I'm talking over you now. If you're talking about the emotional argument, okay. So my contention.
Wait. The new rule is you interrupt me if I get emotional.
Yeah, if you're like he kills people. Yeah, I understand. I don't care. That is the new rule. Okay. So what I'm saying.
No, that's bullshit. No. The idea that fuck you. The idea that it's upsetting that fascists want to kill people. If I sound emotional when I talk about that, you get to interrupt me.
Democratically elected people kill people too. Okay. Your statement carries no weight.
So you don't think that the murder and false imprisonment of your own civilians is a particular of innocent people is a particular problem with fascism? That's just
the boss argument was the fly that killed the horse.
Wow.
That's just
Have you ever heard of the Patriot Act? Have you ever heard of Obama targeting U.S. citizens on foreign soil with drones? Like this is.
That's kind of why I'm doing this. I don't really remember that well.
An exclusive to fascist regimes.
Are we comparing Obama to fucking Hitler?
No, but look at the dumb fucking game that we're lost in now because you're so obsessed with the word fascist. Attack the ideas. It's always bad to kill your own citizens, generally speaking, unless it's like the death penalty, right?
Okay. The problem I have with fascism is that when you have a fascist dictator, you are not in a free state. And the dictator tends to kill millions of people just because they feel.
I don't know if Tuna's still here.
Like it.
Sure,
but
there's a reason why we talk. There's a reason why we talk about Hitler more than like Mussolini. Okay. So, and there's a reason why even in democratic societies like the United States, we can talk about things like our internment camps or our treatment of Native Americans. We don't have to just talk about fascism and blah, blah, blah. Like, let's just talk about the things themselves. Because you're providing the cover now. You're providing the cover by focusing on fascism.
Is a specific, fascism is a specific structure of government that I have a huge problem with.
Destiny was already tapped out before he came here. It seems like it.
Then say that. Don't say fascists kill people. Lots of people kill people. Killing people is probably bad if it's murder.
Okay.
When I use words like Nazi, I use them jokingly. I'm not using them as a serious criticism of somebody. But in my community, we don't care. We don't argue. When we say somebody is bad, it's not because they're a Nazi or a fascist. It's because they think that interbreeding between black and white people is degenerate. Or it's because they think that we shouldn't have an age where we should fuck 2-year-olds like Amosi. Or it's because they think that we should that we should like sail into the fucking Mediterranean and try to turn around boats that are saving immigrants drowning in the fucking like sea, right? These are why we think people are bad, not because they're Nazi or fascist. So insofar as that's concerned, I'll play with the word.
Damn, dude. Fucking Lauren Southern just catching a lot of strays in this conversation. Jesus Christ.
Nazi or fascist. In fact, when I see my community argue about it, I find those are good arguments. When they say something like,
you just unironically said Nick Fuentze is a fascist. You weren't playing when you said that.
I don't care though, but that's not my problem with him. I can have conversations.
I'm not saying it is. I never said that's your problem.
So I don't care about calling him when I'm arguing with him, I'm not going to say like, Nick Fuentze, you're a fascist and that's so bad. I'll just attack the policies.
I'm not saying you should say that.
Okay, then I'll joke about it too. I'll joke about Nazi and I'll joke about fascist because I don't care about I don't care about these words. I know.
That's the thing I'm giving you pushback.
Sure, and I don't care. And I'm telling you that my community has more clarity.
So if you don't care about my pushback, that's fine.
It's not that I don't care about your pushback, it's that I don't care how those words are used. You can give me pushback about it, but
I think Destiny lost the plot at this point.
You haven't convinced me that there's an essential reason why I should guard.
How can I convince you? You're not listening to me.
I am. You just haven't given a single compelling argument.
You're really Mr. Girling me right now. You're not listening to anything I'm saying.
Max, the people on your side have killed people, okay? We suffered almost $2 billion
that was pretty good
from people wielding words like yours in the name of BLM. Okay, over 30 people died in those protests. They died. There are cities that are still burnt to the ground by people saying that Blue Lives Matter flag holders are fascists and Nazis. Okay? There are entire cities burned to the ground. Kenosha happened after people like you wanted to use words like white supremacist.
He said you're Mr. Girling me right now.
The actual problems. So in my community, I try to push back against that because I don't want to see that kind of violence happen in the future.
Don't you think white supremacist is a little vague to apply to an entire police system?
Sure is. But people like you argue, or not people like you, but people that make similar arguments about using these words seem to all like have these similar types of arguments. So I abandon words like...
It's a bit of a little switcheroo straw man here to say that me saying that you should have a definition of a word and then use the word according to your own definition is somehow the same.
Yeah, I think Destiny had pretty much checked out at this point as well. Big C.
Same as me using the word white supremacist to refer to anything I don't like.
We already solved that part of the argument.
Lefty.
We solved that part of it.
Why are you bringing it up?
I have
Why are
it
you-
because
why
you
are
still
you
have a
strawmanning
problem,
me?
even though you said you wouldn't.
As a Canadian, I defend Lauren. I don't think you do, Sfaxon. From the jump, Elderdrazi, from the beginning, man.
I said,
But you're strawmanning me.
I said, here's my definition.
You won't even listen to my problem.
Here's my, okay, let's macro zoom out again. Boom. What is the problem? What are we talking about? Because you asked me for a clear definition, a clear stance, and I gave it to you. But it seems like you still have a problem. Now, what is the problem?
I do.
Okay.
I think that was good that you did that, and I appreciate
Thank you. Now, what is the, let me write it down. What is the problem right now?
I think by jokingly using a word like Nazi to refer to somebody who you believe is actually a fascist and actually has political aspirations and whose career you are helping, you make the idea that Fuentze is a Nazi into a funny, subversive joke.
Okay.
You are likening me to the woke left, the BLM rioters. You're comparing me to people who call the police white supremacists, and you're strawmanning me super hard in the process of doing that. And I think that's really unfair.
That feels
I
right.
think that in the
So there is no plot to lose. Ask the question, why is he in the discussion? I think it was before you got here, I pointed out that Destiny, Mr. Girl was talking to Destiny, and Destiny was just talking to the audience.
process of you joking around like this, you are providing the exact ironic cover that Fuentze needs in order to advance his fascistic goals.
Okay. I think by jokingly using a word like Nazi to refer to somebody who you believe is a fascist and has political aspirations, career building, you make the idea that Fuentze is a Nazi into a fun, funny, subversive joke. I don't care if my audience thinks it's funny or not funny to call Fuentze a Nazi. What I do care about is if they know his positions, and if they like or dislike his positions. So if you think that
I started the conversation with you, that's what
Destiny's repeated this a lot, and Mr. Girl's never refuted that.
I just wrote down your entire fucking thing, and I'm going to respond to more than one fucking sentence of it, okay?
Okay.
So
Jeez.
I understand that you don't like the idea that my community uses the word Nazi as a joke or whatever.
Remember, Destiny only types when he wants the viewers to be reminded. I'll take your word for it. I know you know Destiny pretty well. I think it's pretty good to remember. But it does keep it up on the screen, so it makes sense.
I don't care. That word is already a joke because of external context to my community that I have no control over, or little control over within the boundaries of my community. So I will joke with that word. I think it's funny. I'll joke with all of these words, and I think they're funny. And you are saying that I am likening you to the woke left. Okay, you said that, the BLM rioters. And then you said you're comparing many people who call the police white supremacists. I'm comparing the outcomes of your prescriptions, trying to insist that I'm rigid on the definitions of these words. I think has caused people to fixate on these definitions more than the policies, and the policies and the actual beliefs are more important than the broad labels that we paint people with. And in the final part, you said that I think that in the process of joking around like this, you are providing the exact ironic cover that Fuentze needs in order to advance his fascistic goals. That is not the type of ironic cover that Fuentze needs. I disagree with that. He needs ironic cover around.
Why does Max as an interrupt? Why does anybody interrupt? They feel like something's being lost in translation, something like that, I would guess. He can carry a tune. What Destiny started doing there by comparing Mr. Girl was saying that conservatives complaining about being called white nationalists was disgusting. It certainly is obfuscating it.
On his policy positions. And when we're talking policy, I will be absolutely crystal clear in every single conversation I have had and will have with him. And if you go back and look, including in things like panels with Abba and Gideon and other black people, other black creators, I was never, ever, ever in that panel saying, aren't you a Nazi? Aren't you
Why
a
is faxing?
fascist? Instead, I was saying, didn't you say that black and white people breeding together was degenerate? Don't you believe that black people actually less like you? And I think that type of argument is more important than trying to hold them to whether or not he is or is not a Nazi or a fascist. I do not care. It makes for good meme materials and good jokes, and I would much rather focus on the policies. And whatever cover Nick needs to advance his career as a Nazi or a fascist does not lie in the definition of those terms. It lies in the obfuscation of his policy positions, which is usually done by way of adhering to strict definitions of Nazi or fascist, because the stricter the definition, the easier it is to dance around.
Easier than a loose definition?
Yes.
Easier than a meme definition?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that you should have called him a Nazi in that panel. I'm not saying that. I don't think you should stop talking about his positions. I'm not saying that. I don't think that the point I'm making is trying to replace the point you're making. I think some of what you're doing is good work. I think it's good work to elucidate his positions and to nail him down on them and to talk about them and to argue with them if you disagree with them. I think that's good. At no point have I said you shouldn't do that or that you should replace it with something else. All I'm saying, I mean, you know what I'm saying. I just think by using the word jokingly and not jokingly, saying he's a Nazi, saying he's not a Nazi, especially if you think he's actually a fascist, is providing cover, and it's the exact same cover that he wants. I think he wants people joking about whether he's a Nazi.
Okay. All right. I think we were...
Destiny doesn't play by the same rules he demands from his opponents, so it makes him so effective. Yeah. That's very true. He won't let people not answer something. He says, like, as soon as you're done talking, I'm going to ask the same question over again. But he won't let somebody hold him to that.
I think we've hit bedrock.
That's the best example I can think of off the top of my head.
Is there any other part of this you want to explore or say, or any other tangential line earlier that you'd like to visit?
Do you think Fuentes wants to enslave women?
I'm going to have to ask what you mean by enslave.
Under your definition.
Absolutely not.
Do you think Fuentes wants to cripple the freedom of women and make them second-class citizens?
I thought I'd be able to get through this part pretty easy. I started back here. I made it to here. I'm going to go for like another like 20-ish minutes and then probably cut it for tonight. My throat is like devastated. Why does Max keep pushing the issue? He can't let them agree to disagree. You can hate the person, but you can't hate the skill. And just for Emery, hate the player, not the game. I think that he feels like even when Destiny answers, he says things that take away from the answer.
Under my definition, I would say yeah, since I'm a big liberal and he has a stricter religious, theological, Catholic sense of what the role of a woman and a man is. Yeah, I would say yeah. Wouldn't call it slavery, but yeah, I don't like traditional religious roles for women in households, unless they opt to do it. And I think that he would probably want to find ways to culturally enforce that, kind of like a fascist.
You don't think he wants to legal? I believe he said he wants something like the Taliban. Have you heard that?
I haven't, but it wouldn't surprise me. But my guess is if you would push him on a realist, he'd probably say, oh, okay, yeah, I probably wouldn't make it a law, but there should be really, really harsh cultural punishments and stigmas for people that don't follow these rules, and maybe incentives for people that do. He would want to effectively enforce it societally, if not through government action, probably.
If he doesn't want to make it a law, why wouldn't he say, I want something like the Christian South in the 60s or 50s or something? Why would he say the Taliban?
I don't know how the Taliban enforce their rules. So I can't speak to that. And I would have to see the context of his conversation. If you were to tell me, here's a clip he says it, I
assume they're pretty harsh.
Well, but are they like extra, like, so for instance, there are extra rules that churches have over states, right? If I do a sin in the Catholic Church and then I go to perform the sacrament of confession and I confess my sins, there's going to be an extra punishment that goes along with that, part of my penance. I might have to say the rosary a certain number of times. I might have to perform public service. So insofar as that's like an extra set of punishments for a sin that would be extrajudicial. It wouldn't be part of the government, kind of like Sharia law in a way. So if he's talking about stuff like that, sure. But he might actually say, yeah, there should be the fucking religious police or actual police that beat you if you show too much leg or something. He might say either.
Well, my understanding is this Taliban operates.
Oh, I might have been coughing and not heard it. Let me see. Go back a minute.
Punishments for a sin that would be extrajudicial. It wouldn't be part of the government, kind of like Sharia law in a way. So if he's talking about stuff like that, sure. But he might actually say, yeah, there should be the fucking religious police or actual police that beat you if you show too much leg or something. He might say either.
Well, my understanding is this Taliban operates under Sharia law. That is the law. I don't think it's like
sure they might. I just
separate from the law. That's the only law.
I don't know why you're. If you show me the right clips, and I don't know when. I haven't had an in-depth conversation with Nick or seen an in-depth clip about how he wants to treat women in his ideal society. I'm not sure. I don't know 100%.
Okay, I'm a little disturbed by my own focus on the racial aspect.
I agree, Big C.
Not
if you
just
think you're not a
pointing
slave,
out
you're
that
not in reality.
he is pretty.
But I guess it would depend on what you mean by slave.
Openly interested in, I would call it enslaving women, at least making them second-class citizens.
I mean, from a liberal perspective, Christian people would treat women in a way as second-class citizens, but within the framework of the Christian
But I'm
context,
talking about the law. I'm saying legally they would have fewer legal rights.
Yeah, probably. I would imagine. I don't know if I've heard him do that repeal the 19th shit or they can't own property. But it wouldn't surprise me if he believed that. I'm not sure.
I'm concerned about feminism being too
XQC? What?
soy to have this be a major sticking point that
Fuentes absolutely would not be feminist. Of course not.
No. I'm saying that feminism being too soy in your and maybe my community too, that it allows him to say things like, if he said, "I want black people to,"
Right. I get a big kick out of the idea that of a feminist Nick Fuentze. Max just wants to make Destiny look bad. I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
not have this.
Can you explain why you think
something
that?
like this, like slavery, then there'd be a big uproar. But if he says, "I want something like the Taliban," like, oh, well, they're just women. It feels
Hold on one second. We had a huge argument over this in regards to his viewing Lauren Southern's documentary. And it was over whether or not he thought that women could participate in politics. And we had a huge argument over that, where I very adamantly defended the point that him being so detrimental to women, and I think we even had a second panel conversation about this, him being so opposed to women joining his movement or being politically part of that movement, I think was a detriment to his movement. So no, that was a big conversation.
That's not really soy. I'm talking about the soy position.
Also, Rao, I want to say that you did a really good job lately. When you say something that's kind of up in the air, it's like disagreeing with like what I'm saying or like what you know that I think. When I ask you, you've been really good today about coming back and explaining it. I appreciate that. It hasn't just felt like a bunch of trolling nonsense. Respect. Hey.
Position of like.
Okay.
Or feminist. It's not really feminist to say your movement would be bigger. You'd gain more power.
I'm just saying that it wasn't like he said that and I was like, oh, true, actually, yeah, fuck women, ha ha, like get them out of here. There was a.
I know, but that pushback is different from.
They caught me off guard, Big C.
You can't do that to women.
Okay, what kind of pushback are you looking for? What do you mean? Because you made it sound like he could say that, and I would just jokingly agree because we don't care.
Moral pushback. That's wrong.
No, why would I ever give moral pushback on anything to somebody with a different set of morals than me? He's right morally from within the Christian framework. I have to appeal on some other basis or some other foundation.
I think I guess this gets to part of what I'm concerned about is your reluctance to give moral feedback and your audiences not wanting you to give moral feedback.
It's not effective. We're coming from totally different moral foundations. I have to connect with him in some way that makes our two systems commensurate. He wants to be.
That is true. What Destiny's saying is true.
Politically effective. I know that, so I can hit him on that point. He doesn't give a fuck about my morals. I'm a fucking polyamorous, drug doing, like twice married fucking dude.
I'm not talking about affecting his moral. I'm not talking about affecting.
I'm trying to.
Okay, and then Mr. Girl's also.
Affect his. I want to affect his audience as well. They're not going to care about my morals.
but I
I'm
want you
literally
to
a
affect
fucking
your
degenerate.
But I want you to affect your audience.
My
and I
audience
think
already
that-
agrees that women should be able to vote and have property. I don't need to convince my audience.
I know, but you're the way you push that is by saying it's retarded or stupid or like you're a dipshit if you don't believe that. But that's not really moral pushback. It's like, yeah.
So every line to me is like you asking me to burn $100, because you get paid a lot per line. I end up donating 10x because I have pay attention in other ways.
Yeah, you can
It's
call people stupid and you're good
target
at it and you're
speech.
good at making them look stupid or
sorry?
proving that they
them-
actually are stupid.
I'm not calling them stupid.
That's how
What
chat
I'm trying to
works.
do is when I have an argument with somebody else and I'm trying to be the persuader, okay? I have the harder job of I need to be able to step within their moral framework and navigate within that framework to produce an outcome that would be good within my moral framework, assuming
Okay,
we share no common morality. That's my goal.
Do we agree that there's a trade-off then where the more rhetorically effective you're being to the person you're talking to,
We saw that. I did.
the less you can take a moral stance against what they're saying?
I guess, but I would never
I think
take.
Wait, I think I missed that.
Where the more rhetorically effective you're being to the person you're talking to, the less you can take a moral stance against what they're saying.
I guess, but I would never
I think
take
that kind of gets.
I'm not sure.
Sure, but when I'm being persuasive rhetorically, I'm never, ever, ever invoking my own morality. That's begging the
know,
question.
but
If they,
Oh, I see it. So Mr. Girl's saying when you're meeting them where they're at, you're just sort of accepting a bunch of the things that they believe in, so you can argue from their like moral platform, and that like adds more credibility. If you're not adding the moral condemnation to it, and you're just sort of participating from their framework, then that can make your audience think that you agree with their moral values. Okay, that makes
if he
sense.
believed my morality, we would already be in full agreement.
I know. I think that's what a lot of this whole argument has been about, is me saying that I want you to invoke your own morality.
Okay, then you should have said that.
Out
I would have
loud
said I'm never going to do that ever, and then we could have just end the conversation right there. I'll never do that. Why would I ever invoke my own morality? If I do that, if we agree morally with each other, and I'm not going to move him on any ethics positions ever.
Because he's on a moral crusade, and he is constantly invoking his own morality. And I think that it becomes a kind of like emotionally captivating when somebody can both be the bullet-biting Giga Chad who says, I want the Taliban. You know, I want whatever the Taliban has. Like, it's funny that he says that, and people like it. People like to watch him say outrageous shit. Like, it's like Andrew Tate. Like, it's
no. Him invoking his own morality hurts his ability to persuade my audience. If he wants to invoke his morality, that's fine. If he's going to sit here and say shit like, oh, well, I think that women are second class, blah, blah, blah. No one in my audience. If he wants to convince my audience, he would need to do what I do. And he needs to come over and say, listen, wouldn't society just be easier in this way and this way if women just didn't have to worry about voting, if they didn't have all the stresses of modern life? We can look at self-reported happiness things and say that there's women and force, right? Hold on. If he wants to appeal to my audience, he's going to do what I'm doing. He can't just invoke his morality and my audience goes, oh my God, you know what, dude? Damn, Catholic monarchy shit actually sounds really good. My audience isn't on that level morally to agree with him. They're totally different.
I think I understand what you're saying. I'm saying that I think that you are super equipped with the way that you conduct yourself to push back logically, but you're unwilling to take a moral stance. Like you're saying, you will not provide moral condemnation except in like rare circumstances. And you're even like making fun of me for doing it.
Yeah, because it's not, because that wouldn't be part of being persuasive.
Yes, and what I'm saying is, for the sake of
you could
being
do both.
ultra persuasive, you have created a hole in your defense.
It's not a hole.
You will not provide moral push. Well, I view it as a whole. Okay, do you agree that I think it's a problem you don't provide moral pushback?
Yeah, you can think it's a problem, sure.
Okay, do you agree that if I think that, then obviously it makes sense for me to give you this feedback that, yeah, you're a great
I didn't say
logician.
it doesn't make sense for you to give me feedback. Of course it makes sense for you to give me feedback if you believe this is true. I just don't believe this is true. I don't think there is a hole here. I think that by me trying to engage in moral arguments, I'm automatically losing. That's a losing position rhetorically.
Yes, exactly. Losing position rhetorically. That's what I'm talking about. You have such an aversion to that But I'm saying that sometimes, for the sake of the greater good, or the sake of staking out your position, the sake of messaging to people who are watching, not necessarily the person that you're talking to directly, I think that I mean, I'm providing moral pushback right now, and obviously it doesn't resonate with you much, but I think you have a moral imperative to stake out a moral position when you're talking to somebody who wants to commit atrocities, or who you think might want to commit atrocities.
So it's worth it for me to stake out a moral position if it means that more of my fans will become Nazis. That's what you're saying, because that's what is happening. That's what would happen in your world.
I don't think so.
Okay, you're wrong. So rhetoric,
no, you're wrong,
is the art of being persuasive, trying to persuade somebody.
That's really funny. I was about to comment on how saying, well, you're wrong isn't really an argument. And Mr. Girl said, no, you're wrong.
Speaking from within, well, hopefully to whatever, it depends on what we're arguing about, to my side of the argument.
Yes. The less you are willing to moralize, the less clear it is what your side even is.
When I moralize, I'm putting a stake that is 5 million miles away from them.
Yes.
I can't pull them to that side. That's not my goal.
Agreed. I agree.
And not only that, when I'm starting all the way over there, I'm giving them the opportunity to start way closer to my audience. I don't want them to have that opportunity. I want to work within their moral framework to be persuasive on that end, rather than stake out really strong claims on my end and just say,
I don't think that Destiny's incorrect here.
no, that's wrong. No, I don't agree with that morally. That's wrong. And they're saying, oh, black crime rates all across the world. I mean, like, diversity causes all these issues. I mean, look at these homogenous...
Insofar as what Destiny's goals are, I think that he's correct here.
I don't want to be fighting on that. Now I'm fucking lost because I'm saying, like, no, dude, diversity is our greatest strength. It would actually be way...
And actually, it's he's not just right there. I think it's actually a really good insight into how you can communicate with an audience in effective ways and what are ineffective ways. In this 3-part conversation where I've mostly agreed with Mr. Girl, I think this is probably the single best most well-articulated argument that Destiny's made in this like series of arguments that they've had.
Way more moral for us to help illegal immigrants. He's going, well, illegal immigrants stealing jobs, labor force participation is actually pretty low right now.
I'm not saying you should moralize about that. I'm fine.
No, hold on. I'm telling you that if I stake out a moral position that is miles away from anybody over there that I could persuade, the only people that are listening to the arguments I'm making past that point are the people that already agree with me. And I've lost the ability to contact any of his audience. But if he's wanting to rhetorically stake a stronger position, now I'm fighting an argument where all I'm trying to do is preach to my audience and then bleed off whoever's not the most loyal to me to him. Why would I make more Nazis to have a stronger moral principle like argument? Why would I do that?
Well, you wouldn't. I'm arguing that that's not what happened. So let me push back. In your analogy,
I had a feeling you were in the Discord, and I just checked you are.
You're talking about where he is and a stake being 5 million miles away, and your audience.
That's cool. Chat in the Discord.
Right? I believe that in the case of Nazism or fascism,
it's so cool for me to see that happen.
He is so far out there that I think you could actually put down a moral stake, and it would be pretty close to where your audience already is, and it would have, I think, a sobering effect to see that. The guy, like I talk about trans people and Black Lives Matter and Dr. K, and I'm making all these impassioned emotional appeals, and I'm starting to blow. Like, people can only watch me cry so many times before they start to say like, oh, like he's just a bitch, he's just emotional, especially when I'm talking to you, because you don't do that. However, I think there's a break glass in emergency thing happening here where, and this is why I'm saying this to you, I think you should take a moral stance here. And I don't think it might make you less rhetorically effective with Fuentes himself, but I think it has other effects that are really important for you to say, guys, this is wrong. I think this is wrong.
No, there is no sobering effect. It will make me, I'm going to use the trigger statement, it will make me look soy. If I come into his community and I go, guys, that's wrong, then everybody there just sees me as every single far left progressive ever.
I'm not worried about his community. I'm worried about yours.
Okay, my community is not going to be persuaded by his moral arguments.
if somebody's running into the Capitol building with a gun, is it soy to say that's wrong? Don't do it?
The problem is that by me saying that, my audience already obviously thinks that's wrong. People in the middle even think that's wrong. His audience.
Answer this.
What? His audience thinks that's right.
Is it wrong? Is it soy? If I'm standing outside the Capitol, I see somebody going with a gun, and I say, hey, listen, with tears in my eyes, I love this country. Don't do this. Is that wrong?
Yes.
Or is it soy?
That's
is it soy?
Yeah, it's soy. Because they're running into the Capitol for the same reason you don't want them to run into it. That's the issue. It's a difference of... There are so many differences that have to be addressed to get to that point. That's the problem.
I'm not... Okay. I think that you'd be standing outside the Capitol talking at 500 words per second about how they're retarded dipshits for going in. But I think it's... At a certain point, I think you need to make the... if not impassioned emotional appeal, a moral stance of like, I don't believe this. I don't think this is right. I think this is wrong. Okay. And I think Fuentze is that.
Okay. I think
your audience needs to hear that from you.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'll ask you if you think you can do it. If you want, we can try any argument you want, and I will play any side of this, and we can do moral versus pragmatic stances, and I can show you the difference in how those conversations go. Because the ones where I stake out a moral claim are going to be fucking disastrous. But the one where I fight pragmatically is going to go way better, and I can destroy them within their own framework, which is convincing to the people that are listening to them.
I think that's also true.
The implication is that if you can...
Destiny is uncomfortable with emotionality, therefore, as an extension, morality. Appealing to someone's emotions probably has its place even for him. He's just making a bad emotional argument here. Part of what makes fascism bad is not that it is not an effective way for a leader to use their power, but because of the terror that the people under the leader experience through use of power. That's true. You could theoretically have a fascistic government that uses the kind of power that fascists have for the betterment of all people. Like, look, I don't care what you think. I'm giving everybody health care. I don't care what you think. I'm making sure that everybody has food. I don't care what you think. We're not going to get involved with this war over here and send our own citizens to die. You could be doing things that are just like better for every one of your citizens, but usually ends up not being the case.
Make a pragmatic winning argument for an atrocity.
And it is almost exclusively, I think exclusively, the terror of the people under the leader. That
then it's okay. And you even bit this bullet.
Sort of
you said, well, if he beats me in my arguments,
check of this.
I hope my audience goes and marches in the Fourth Reich.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that your unwillingness to appear soy is a big weakness in this, when you're going up against somebody like Fuentze. I think your audience needs to hear you say, even if I lose, that just means I lost. If I lose this argument, that's because I sucked. That doesn't mean I'm wrong.
That can be from my personal conversations with my stream, but it's not going to be when I'm arguing with someone else.
Sure.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not saying
you need to say it when you're arguing with him or as an argument.
I think I said I don't agree. I agree with that. I don't disagree with that. That's what I say, I guess.
I'm just saying broadly, it doesn't. I feel like there's a hole in your messaging around Fuentze. That's just like.
My audience constantly is posting like, just so you know, this is what he said. I'm pretty sure Rose Chris literally made that doc because he's part of my audience. Like when people like, make sure that we remember what Fuentze is, guys. Like my audience already doing all this
Rose
shit.
Wrist is trying to fill in for you because I believe he sees a gap in your messaging around this. I think Rose Wrist feels like you won't just say like, hey, this is wrong. I'm against this.
Because my community already knows my positions on all of these things. Nobody in my community is like, damn, is Destiny actually for like getting rid of all gay people? Or like, fuck, does Destiny actually think that like Jews are actually like controlling the fucking
Yeah, but there's a
government?
difference between knowing what you think is right and wrong and you actually being willing to say it.
I'm willing to say it. I'm just not going to do it on a moral way in an argument with somebody different with a different set of morals. Again, if you want, we can do a sample conversation of any topic, and we can run down the difference.
No, I know you're going to win. That's the point is that you'd have to sacrifice some rhetorical effectiveness in the argument.
When you say sacrifice rhetorical effectiveness,
soy,
you're saying you're going to have to make some Nazis to have a better moment on stream where you can look principled. I don't agree with that. That's what Hassan does.
I don't agree with you. I think
that's what you're saying. No. When you're saying sacrifice rhetorical effectiveness, rhetoric is the art of persuasion. If I'm sacrificing persuasion, by definition, I'm losing some of the audience. What does it mean to be less persuasive?
No, you're not.
Okay, I don't know what you think persuasion means. What do you think persuasion means? We have to go more fundamental. What does it mean to be persuasive?
I think when I get to this part here is where I'll stop for tonight. My throat's dying. Destiny cares about winning Fuentez's audience and his, while Mr. Girl cares about Destiny's audience going to Fuentez. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes.
I think Mr. Girl's just saying, when you're doing this, I think that you should have better safeguards to keep your audience from moving into yours, because it can't just be a one-way street. There's no possible world where you're pulling people from Fuentez's audience and he's not pulling some of yours. So if you acknowledge that it would be bad for your audience to go to Fuentez's side, you should be at least taking some kind of precaution here to mitigate that risk.
And looking at the debate from a purely logistical lens or logical lens, who wins the debate? Okay. Persuasiveness is you're trying to get the person you're talking to or the people who are listening to agree with you.
Yes.
Okay.
So if there's 1,000 people, a 50% persuasive argument might convince 500. 55% might convince.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like you're not. What you're convincing them to can be a emotional point, a moral point, or a logical point, or is usually some combination of all the above.
I can't argue somebody into a different morality. That is impossible. Unless I'm having
I don't think you can argue Fuentez into a different morality.
I can't argue his audience. That is
people's morality. See, I think that you just see yourself in some way as not as effective as you actually are. I think you have a lot more sway over the morality of your audience and anybody who listens to you than you think.
We just fundamentally disagree on that. I don't think so.
Okay, sure, we do, but I don't think Trump is good.
I hate Dan's fucking Hearthstone sounds in the background. It's driving me crazy. It's triggering the part of my brain that plays Hearthstone.
At debating.
It's very distracting.
In the way you debate. He doesn't even make points. But he still wins.
Incredibly rhetorically effective. So he's good at debating insofar as persuading the audience, for sure.
Yeah. But he also at the end of the day, you don't know what Trump believes.
Okay.
His own audience doesn't know what he believes.
Sure.
I don't think anybody really knows what he believes.
Okay.
That comes at a cost. And I'm saying that I think that there's an imperative for you to let your audience know,
which I do,
what you believe
within
in
my
a soy way.
With my stream,
I think the only way to fight Fuentez
with my
is
stream,
to be soy.
I can't. No, I think that's wrong.
I know.
And if we ran any sample argument, I could demonstrate it in the argument that it would be wrong and ineffective.
Not vice versa. I might have read that part.
Or I could just speak about my last argument about the women thing. So if he wants to argument, I go, I think that women should be part of it because morally, we're all human, dude. All of us are human. Women can do things like men can. We should all treat each other equally. I think that that's he would see that. Oh, cool. Totally inconsistent morals. And he would just preach to his moral side. He'd say, well, actually, I think we are equal in terms of rights, but we're not equal in terms of capabilities. And equal rights doesn't mean equality under the law, equality of outcome, right? The woman, it has more control over the household than the man does, and the man has more control in the real world. One of these things isn't better than the others. It's just two sides of the same coin. Just because they're not exactly...
Why should women be free?
Do you want me to answer as him or as me?
I'm saying, don't you think that there needs to be somebody who makes the emotional and moral stance of just
Sure, the video
right?
SAS can do that. That's not a good argument, dog. We've been saying that shit for fucking years. Because it's right? Because diversity is our greatest strength? Because racism is wrong? That shit doesn't fucking work if somebody is fundamentally morally opposed to you. Sorry, I'm not trying to destroy my voice. But I just don't think that the moral arguments are very effective. Like, you have to hit them.
They're not effective on their own, but I do think we still need people saying racism is wrong. Yeah. It's
Okay,
not
then
wrong
somebody
because
can
it's
go.
illogical. Because
Somebody.
there are times where it is logical.
I mean, it is accurate to say that this part is pretty soy. But this is the part of the argument that I'm least empathetic towards Mr. Girl with. I think that he is, like, morally, I'd say he's correct. But I think this is a bad argument to make to Destiny right now. This part of it.
But still wrong.
The problem is people are giving logical reasons to be racist, and the other side is just screaming like, no, 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 it's morally wrong. That's not enough. That's not good enough.
It is funny too, though, because when I heard Mr. Girl talk about why he wouldn't be racist in a situation like, he gives the example, if I'm walking down the street alone and I see a black person on the side of the road, or on the same side of the road walking towards me, I wouldn't walk across the street to the other side, even though I know that statistically they are more likely to, like, jump me than a white person is, based on, like, crime statistics. But I would still walk on the same side of the road anyways. I would choose not to do that because I wouldn't want to hurt that person's feelings. That was a pretty big shock to me to hear somebody say that, because I don't know if I've ever actually heard somebody in this space say, I would do something just because I cared about the other person's feelings, like that. And that had a pretty powerful effect too. So that might be the reason why Mr. Girl has this position, because it actually does work. Insofar as, like, making people think about things differently. Because, like I said, that really got to me. Oh, I went a little bit past that. I'm just gonna rewind it a hair to go back to next time. That's it for me. I went a little over 2 hours. I thought I was only gonna make an hour and a half. I really pushed it. My throat's, like, totally fucked, and I know I want it to get better, so I can't push it too much. I've been doing my very best to not talk all day, just so that I could stream, and I can feel it straining a little bit. I plan on doing the rest of this probably tomorrow. What's today? Today Thursday. I don't know about streaming on Saturday. I have a date. My wife and I are going on a date with this woman we're seeing. And then Sunday, I'm gonna try to stream a little bit earlier in the day. I'll probably start in the afternoon because I have plans with a friend. So there's a chance that I'll stream in the afternoon on Saturday too. It just depends on my voice, but we'll see. But that's it for right now. Thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. Before you go, if you wouldn't mind liking the stream, I would greatly appreciate that. And once again, an appeal to the Kick viewers to follow me on Kick. I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, oh, I do have one other thing, which I'll probably remind people about anyways. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Lethe Waterkai about the time that he spent in an actual religious cult. I think it's super interesting, and I think we're going to play some Magic while we talk about that, because he's a pretty competitive Commander player, and that would be fun. And I'm super interested to know more about the religious cult that he was in. I've got little snippets here and there from panels that I've been in of his, but it seemed like a pretty wild one. So if you're interested in that, just maybe follow me on Twitter. I'll have more information about it there. It's Dame Elderdrazi. But that's it for me for tonight. Thanks for watching me, and thanks for putting up with my fucked up voice.